So, good morning. Any hangovers in the crowd? No, you're doing it wrong. You're doing the whole conference wrong then. So, I'm really happy to be here today and share with you my passion, or should I say, obsession, about augmented reality. People that know me know that it's been really hard to try and constrain me to only 20 minutes because just don't ask me any open questions about AR because you can get an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of talking about how awesome it is and how it's going to change our world. And this is why I want to talk to you today about how this technology will indeed change the way that we interact with the world, but this change can be positive or negative, and it really is up to us as users, as developers, as industry representatives to make sure that this technology is here to stay and here to stay in a positive way. So throughout my life, I learned one key thing, that humanity is indeed divided. And it's divided into two core groups: Trekkies and Star Wars fans. Can I see show of hands for Trekkies? Okay. Star Wars fans? Again, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it all wrong. So it's no wonder why the first notion I had about augmented and virtual reality came from the USS Enterprise holodeck. Now, I come from a small city in Israel, and for someone from a small city, the idea that a geeky girl can go boldly where no woman has gone before, that can have an experience that is limitless, boundless, just by being where she is, was an amazing notion. And of course, I started looking on whether or not this technology exists, and it didn't. It was still science fiction. But of course, never underestimate nerds or science fiction, because science fiction is the perfect playground for spurring innovation. It's a space where you don't have any financial limitations, any technological boundaries, any user needs to adhere with. So actually, most of the technology that we know today, from the World Wide Web to mobile computing to artificial intelligence and, of course, virtual and augmented reality, all have been initiated via science fiction authors and popular media. So these technologies, they are becoming a reality today. There's very little actually left from science fiction that hasn't become science or technology these days, have integrated into our society and altered our behaviors, from the way we commute, communicate, and even hook up one swipe at a time. And there is one technology, the one ring to rule them all, and that is, in my mind, augmented reality. Augmented reality is wrongly treated as a tool or a technology. The way I see it, augmented reality is the interaction platform that can only be measured against the World Wide Web, in my mind, that will channel all the emerging technologies that we have today, from big data to artificial intelligence, gesture recognition, facial recognition. They will all need a channel where we can use them. And that amazing channel is augmented reality. So during my studies in the 90s, a lot of augmented and virtual reality technology had been prototyped and tested. And I was really thinking that I'm going to get to try it in my lifetime. And I was right, because 20 years later, my husband, which is of course a 3D game developer, came home with the Oculus Rift dev kit and told me, honey, your dreams have been answered. Our lives are going to change forever. And I said, wow, I can't wait. So there was the whole ritual of preparing to it. Like I actually took a shower. I needed to be clean for the experience. And we selected it was like a whole process, of course, research process, what is going to be more emerging. And I sat down and I adjusted the goggles and I was waiting for my childhood dreams to come true, and they all came crashing down. I was utterly disappointed. I have to be honest. I was really disappointed. I almost shed a tear. I shed a tear. And not only did I not find it as engaging as I thought, I actually came out of it disorientated and with a mild headache. So I told my husband, listen, I don't think this VR thing is working for me. And his answer, again, 3D game developer, is, you're doing it wrong. He actually told me I'm experiencing virtual reality wrong. That really baffled me. So, of course, I tested it again and again, the same result. So, as any nerd would do with being baffled, tackling a conflict, a headache, or a marital dispute, I sat down to write a paper about it. So, I wrote a paper about VR, and I came to my husband a few weeks later, and I said to him, you know what? Oculus Rift, and I know it was an early stage, prototype. I said, Oculus Rift actually is an amazing business study case. The way the technology has been developed and tested, I think, should be taught in any business school. But it doesn't work. Something is not working. And it's not just about the level of the immersion. Something wasn't working for me. He still argued. There was 2 weeks of, VR, AR, VR, AR. So I said, OK, I'm going to write a whole thesis about it. I have to prove my point my point across, right? So I sat down and indeed did a whole thesis about how to implement augmented reality and wrote the book about it because I needed to win the argument. So buy the book because I need to prove somebody wrong. And I'm still convinced that augmented reality has a massive advantage on top of virtual reality. And we're kind of starting to see it now in the market. So there has been massive, crazy investment in the last 3 to 4 years within virtual and augmented reality. We've seen the market go from 132 million in 2013 to over 2.2 billion last year. So, at least for last year, for most people doing anything to do with AR, VR, money was just pouring in. But something has happened. 2 things actually happened. The first thing is that if you look at the Q1 figures of 2017 versus 2016, they're lower. So in investment in both AR and VR. So the numbers that are being thrown out these days, talking about reaching 80 billion to, I even heard 160 billion by 2020, might not happen. Something is happening. People are not investing as much as they did. And the ones that are investing more in AR development versus VR development. And why is that happening? So let's start with what is AR versus VR. This is quite crucial. These technologies are very close. They're both in the virtual spectrum, and they're using very similar technologies to build them. But the way we experience them and mediate them are very different. And this is a crucial factor in the success or failure of both technologies. So first of all, AR is not VR. And the first thing to do is to explain to the users what is the difference and to the industry, because these days people are coming to me and saying, do me a VR, AR thing. There's a massive difference on purpose and on experience. Virtual reality basically aspires to simulate your environment and replace it. And this is something it does very successfully, and this is something that augmented reality will never win on. because you can create whatever universe you want with virtual reality, whatever simulation, whatever experience. It's quite amazing. But it has a lot of problems. And it has a lot of functional problem, serious functional problem, especially in computer vision. The whole wearable debate, which is a different story, is very crucial for virtual reality, because right now it is the main way that you can experience it. And good luck persuading people to put them sexy goggles on, right? In terms of content, there's a lot of gaming content out there, great, but still we're not there. Although I do hear they're making a VR Excel sheet, so I'm super excited. Not. But the last 2 points, the experience and the experience quality itself and the human factor, are for me the most crucial in embedding it. But let's move to AR, and I will show you why it is better. So augmented reality does something really simple. It builds on our physical world and adds a layer to it. It doesn't replace it. It just gives you a plus experience. And this is really the key factor. So augmented reality still has some of the problems that VR has, but it could be mediated via head-mounted devices, true, still I think an issue, mobile devices, and you can use it on a spatial level. So actually it has more variety in how we experience it. So this is becoming a lot more interesting. The content is not there yet, true, but the experience itself is building on experience that is already here, on interaction that we already know how to have. And it's a much more social platform. So I think Mark Zuckerberg finally got it, that perhaps VR is not going to be this social platform. It's a closed system. So you can have chat rooms that are virtual, but eventually it is a closed system. And I think this is the most beautiful word in the English language, to augment. And a lot of people are using mixed reality versus augmented reality these days, but I love augment because it literally means to make something greater by adding to it. So I really love the concept behind it, that we have a technology that is there to make something better, to really make something greater. It's not about function, but about value. And we are living in an era where most of our interaction and information and experiences and external confirmation are coming from digital channels already. And the beauty of augmented reality is that it will break the final barrier between humans and technology. It will break, literally, the screen. It will break the black mirror or the window that we have to interact with technology. And what it means is that technology won't be a thing that happens there. Technology will be part of our physical interaction, of our everyday life, part of our body, not in a wearable way, but part of our environment in a whole new way, because it's quite depressing to think about it. But in the end, we are just an advanced breed of monkeys on a minor planet on a very average star. We are human. We are imperfect, we are flawed, we do mistakes, we make bad decisions. I'm not going to name the president. But it's fine. It's fine that we are flawed. And we're making a lot of technology that is supposed to compensate for it, or actually trying to make us quantify our actions. There's even a wearable device that tells you when you have to drink water, which I find, I actually think I need it, but I find it quite interesting to the level that we get in making technology tell us how to be human, right? And it makes a lot of people very stressed. Of course, we're seeing anxiety levels like we haven't seen before. All this technology that is supposed to make our lives better and happier, and there's so much anxiety, so we use an app to tell us how to be mindful about it. So it's quite a funny loop. And the first AR experience that became viral, which is Pokemon Go, which is the best way to talk to somebody out of the industry. What is AR? It's Pokemon Go. And they're like, oh yeah, I know what it is. Although I argue differently, that it's not pure AR, but I know there's some Pokemon Go people, not in the crowd, but in the conference, so I won't go into that. But this was actually quite an amazing viral implementation that was a complete coincidence, I think, for the developers. And it showed three interesting things about humanity. It showed that we are still able to connect with the physical world around us, because people actually got off the sofa and got out. That was actually quite a good selling point. And it made people act in a very weird way, so in a very foolish way. Some people quit their jobs to hunt Pokemons. They caught all the Pokemons, but they quit their jobs for that. And it also made people behave in a very harmful way towards themselves and others. So we know the stories of people trespassing in the States, or actually there's lawsuits now in New Jersey against trespassers that went into private property to hunt Pokemons. But we also know about people that swam out to the ocean to catch Pokemons and drowned. And we know about people that fell off cliffs and harmed people and got mugged. So it made quite an impact on our behaviors and our interaction. And this was just a casual little game. I mean, imagine what happens when we really have a narrative-based game that is really engaging, that will stay more than a few weeks, and that people will get into. You know, we're going to see some really weird-ass behaviors happening in the real world. And the reason is that what augmented reality offers us is to create a hyper-reality. So this augmentation on top of our physical world means that we can add layers of fantasy, of experience that we can share with other people or not, or have for ourselves, but we can experience heightened realities within our everyday lives. And this is a great notion, but it's also kind of an alarming notion, because when our reality is constantly mediated and constantly heightened, I really wonder how much we will be engaged with the vanilla reality that doesn't have all the thrills and frills on it, at least in the beginning. And I wonder what happened to kids that are born into a reality that has the digital, not behind a screen, but everywhere. And then you have to take them to a holiday without all these layers of data. How will they react? Will they indeed experience reality in a better way? Or will they experience the plain reality as kind of like the pale copy of their beautiful hyper-reality? And we might be able to create universes and fantasies and experiences that we can share with other people. I can see the grunge kids having their own reality that they share with their own groups, and the geeks will have their own little reality that will be shared, you know, kind of like social media groups. But we've seen what happened in social media. We've seen that the algorithms that give us everything we want doesn't necessarily give us everything we need, right? We channel information in a very specific way. So these little universes, shared or private, might become real digital silos within our physical world. So, you know, the haves and the have-nots, you know, might become groups that experience reality in a very separative way. And of course, there's the issue of identity and privacy. Now, last week, we had 99 countries, I think, that have been hacked to. People were sent home from hospitals in the UK because the computer systems have been hacked. Now, we're talking about augmentation that will be placed within our environment. We're talking about our actual reality being hacked. I mean, and we might think like, yeah, what will happen? I'm like, well, all you need, ISIS have been using media to terrorize people via the screen. What happens when we have virtual terrorism inside our environment? It's just an image, but it is impactful just as much. And there's the issue of identity. We already have real-time facial mapping and projection that is happening. We have voice sampling. We're recording over a few seconds. Somebody can duplicate your entire speech pattern. So I would potentially be able to augment my face to look like yours, and I'll be able to have your voice, even your scent, because augmentation is not just about the visual aspect, right? It's about a multi-sensory experience, eventually. So I will be able to take the identity of anyone in this room. So it's not something that is, maybe it can happen. These technologies exist today. So, and by the way, we don't have copyrights on our image. I can be also Angelina Jolie. Not that I would want to because I'm a bit too short, but I could take the identity of anyone I want. There is no copyrights on somebody's appearance. Even the Kardashians. Yep. So brands and marketeers today are really dying to apply augmented reality. They're saying that we can use it to make the user engagement and the experience of the user better, and they will have more choice when they go into retail, and they'll be able to see everything that they might be able to have. But we are living in a reality where the digital noise is becoming almost unbearable, almost. And when we talk about augmentation applied within a public space or a private space, I don't know if I want all these pop-up ads in my bedroom at 11 p.m. I'm not sure about that, right? And people tell me, hey, don't worry about it. We have ad blocks. Well, that's a lie. Try to get some free-for-use content without paying for it some way, through your data mining or through paid content to get the full package. We don't really have control over it. And if you don't believe me, I really challenge you to write down right now 10 numbers, 5 numbers. 5 numbers of your closest friends and family. Write it down now. Write down a paper for 5,000 words without using autocorrect. Leave this conference and go home, Amsterdam or elsewhere, without using any digital device. Yeah? We're in control completely. Because we oversimplified our interactions and our data channels. We rely on technology. Again, fine, but it really makes us very dependent on it. But there is hope. There is still a choice. We still have a choice to make on how we want to use technology and how we want to use augmentation. Because it's true that we are a breed of shaved monkeys floating on a rock, but we can understand the universe, and that makes us very special. It means that we can make decisions consciously, if we want to. It means that we can choose to create meaningful experiences of technology and augmented reality, especially because it will be one of the technologies that will influence the way we interact with everything. And just to help you out, I created 12 steps of meaningful augmentation. So it's simple. You just have to admit, believe, confess, commit, reevaluate, step away, intent, human, old school, best, worst, recheck, reality. And I'll elaborate about it briefly. So we need to admit that we have become powerless over technology, that our lives have become unmanageable through its overuse. We need to believe that our tech sanity can be restored. We need to confess to our wrong tech doing. And it's okay to say we tried it out and we kind of effed it up in a way. It's fine, right? Doesn't mean we have to give it up. Somebody asked me in an interview earlier this year, is like, oh, do you want to slow down technology? I'm like, no, I'm a nerd. I love technology. Technology is perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's humans. We are the flawed ones, right? We are the ones that created technologies, sometimes in a flawed way. We develop them sometimes in a flawed way. Maybe we sometimes use it in a flawed way, but it's fine. Because we're humans, we can admit it, we can confess, and it will be fine. But we still need to commit to making augmented reality become a sustainable platform. And by sustainable, I mean a platform that will stay there for a long time in a positive way. And we need to quickly replace our obsession with return on investment and turn it into a long-term value system. This is how technology was created. All the big tech founders were hippies. Steve Jobs was a hippie. Look at all their slogans. Okay, they don't live by it today. Don't be evil. Who said that? Right? So all the big technology actually started with a passion and a real intent to make things better. Money got in the way. But we can change that, right? And we can change it by stepping away from the tech silos. So please stop building technologies by technologists, for technologists, tested by technologists. Go out to the crowd, find out the user needs, not the market gaps. And it's fine to develop technology for the sake of developing it, but that cannot be the only reason. And we need to start with old school. We need to start with the way we already interact with the world, and then add future knowledge to it. We need to stop trying to train humans to act in different ways than we have in years and years and years. We need to design things with true intent, trying to make things meaningful and valuable, to design it for humans, by humans, to deepen knowledge, to deepen empathy, personal and social development. And we need to build for best worst case scenarios, because we know that the next big augmented reality application will somehow involve drawing penises on strangers' faces. We know that. But that's okay. That's not the worst case scenario. That's the best worst case scenario, because we've seen worst case scenarios. We are not Mark Zuckerberg sitting in his room saying, what will happen with this platform? So be consistent. Continue to take personal inventory as you develop, so we can make reality great again by building on the most immersive experience that we have, the world around us. So we might be divided to Trekkies and Star Wars fans, and whether we want to build empires or go where no man has gone before, we are still all humans. So together, we can make reality great again. So thank you very much.